Good evening, everyone. I'm Diane Owens from California, and I am the chair of the Advancement Committee, the National Advancement Committee. So let me tell you a little bit about the Advancement Committee. We're sponsoring this webinar tonight, and we are composed of former or current state presidents or state board members from the largest states in AUW. And our role is to help the board and also to help the staff on matters of membership and AUW fund. And before we begin the webinar tonight, I'd like to introduce you to the other Advancement Committee members who have created this evening's event. We've been practicing for about 2 months actually to pull this all together. And they're going to participate in a mock branch meeting to coincide with the webinar theme, which is Building a Stronger AAUW. So the team that volunteered to do this extra work are Dan Carey from Minnesota, Deb Roney from Pennsylvania, Barbara Sandow from Washington, and Carol Griffith from New York. We're going to do interviews and conversations with branch members that have initiated successful fundraising events, and we're going to emphasize how much money was raised and the steps they took to ensure their success. There'll also be a presentation by our National Board Finance Chair, Christine Schmitz, and she's going to explain and define the national budget, and she's going to use a really clever scenario to do that. And then we have our two national board members, Katrina Sunbreeze and Megan Kissel, will also join us to discuss their roles with AUW and how this all fits together. This webinar is divided into 2 segments. The first segment is about finances and the national budget, which Christine will do. And the second segment is about fundraising. So the presentations will demonstrate what branches and states can do to achieve success in fundraising projects that in turn provide donations to AAUW to the greatest needs and also to 2 new funds, which you're going to hear more about tonight. The Higher Education Fund and the Public Policy Fund. All 3 funds will help AUW meet the needs of the current legislative climate. If you have questions during the webinar, please use the chat box, which is at the bottom of your screen. And when you think of them, pop them in so that we'll have them when we get to the end of our webinar. There will be about 10 minutes. If everything goes well, we'll have about 10 minutes left for questions. And if we have some questions left over, don't worry, we'll answer them. So don't worry about that. The chat box has been turned off. So the Q&A is where you will put your questions. And now you're about to watch and listen to a scenario that is taking place during a branch meeting. And let us begin with the president, who is Deb.
Order. I need order in the meeting. Please, just one question at a time. I know we're all a little concerned, but let's dive in and see if we can keep this civil. The chair recognizes Sue.
Yeah, so members are receiving email and seeing postings from National about critical political issues. These are resulting in a lot of anxiety and questions. Members donate to various initiatives in support of AAUW's mission, but it appears our support is being increasingly challenged in recent weeks. What will happen to our donations? Oops.
Yes, and the board voted to increase dues over the next 2 years. Is that enough to solve fiscal disparities and fund the expenses? What will the dues increase cover? Will our donations to various funds be sheltered from the political winds?
That's a good question, but our concerns address larger questions. What does National do with all the money it collects from members? Where does all the money go? What will we get with a dues increase? Who can answer those questions?
The national website had an FAQ page that answered the dues increase question, and every member had an opportunity to ask direct questions during a comment period.
That may have been fine for some, but what about members who do not have access to the website or email? How were they supposed to be informed? And you are still not answering the other big question. Where does the money go? I want to know how the donations and the collected dues are dispersed.
The answer to how dues and donations are allocated to various activities is covered in a financial overview presentation from National Board member Christine Schmitz. That should answer member questions. Let's watch this. Christine?
Good evening. I'm Christine Schmitz. I'm from Maryland. Have the privilege of being on the national board as of this past year. And I want to show you a presentation that my co-chair of finance at the national level created. Peggy Cabanis did this wonderful presentation. Some of you may have seen it previously if you've been on a state liaison meeting. So next slide. This is our famous Lego presentation. If you may have seen this at some time. This shows the assets of National as of the year ending June 30, 2024. Total of $132 million. Wow, that seems like a lot of money, doesn't it? If we look to the 3 tallest Lego towers, you will see that is the representation of what we have in our permanently restricted funds. That represents slightly over $100 million. All of that is restricted for our flagship grants and fellowships. Now, the middle tower, which is quite a bit smaller and is only 1 tower, is representing things that are temporarily restricted. Now, what that means is someone has given money for a project or a specific type of project, maybe STEM related, and it goes into that temporarily restricted budget. Now, look at the left little Lego, that poor little tiny Lego. Standing next to that little Lego is a little person that represents Peggy Cabanis when she created this. That little Lego is worth $4.5 million, and is unrestricted money. That is what we have, total of what we have to run the national AAUW. Next slide. Okay, this slide just gives us another graph of what I've just spoken about. The unrestricted, 4.5 million, temporarily restricted, a little over 25 million, 102 million permanently restricted, and total assets, 132 million. Next slide. So what is permanently restricted? We know it's for fellowship and grants, but just to show how much we've done for fellows and for grants, 13,000 fellows since 1888 have received funds. Over 135 million have been given in grants. 2024 was a wonderful year we were able to give 6.2 million in grants to 277 fellows. Next slide. Now our temporarily restricted assets, 25 plus million. These are funds for programs that have been specified by the donor. They could be used currently if the criteria is met for the use that the funds were given. Some examples are the Nancy Grace Roman Fund, which was given specifically for STEM programs, and some other funds, the New York City Metro Fund, and additional fellowship and grants funds. Next slide. Now, as to the unrestricted assets, you all probably receive emails saying give to greatest needs. This is what greatest needs covers: member services for our affiliate organizations, public policy, communications from national, research reports, advocacy and legislation, and we know how much we need that these days, program development, operations for the staff and office, occupancy is our rent for our DC national office. So you can see there are a lot of things that have to be covered out of that 4.5 million that we have in this bucket. Next slide. Okay, so for the fiscal year coming up, or the one we're in right now, rather, fiscal year ending 2025, it ends June 30. The budget for the revenue is we will have 7 million available in the endowment and investments category. We anticipate revenue of 3.8 million from contributions. Dues represent 2.1 million. And miscellaneous, we receive rental on a sublease that we have in DC. So the total revenue we expect to be coming in this current fiscal year is 14 million. Next slide. So as to what we're going to have to expend in fiscal year 2025, 7 million for the fellowship and grants category. That includes the paying of the grants and also some money for staff to cover the work that goes into that. Advancement, 2.1 million. That has to do with the affiliate costs. You'll see that is pretty much in line with dues. Occupancy, 2.9 million is what we pay for the occupancy. Operations and administration, 3.8 million. Programs, 1.4 million. And other policy and miscellaneous, 0.4 million. So total expenses, 17.6 million, as compared to what we saw on the prior slide, which was 14 million coming in. So you see we have a difference to make up. Next slide. This is our last slide. It's a bit, goes into basically everything I've already spoken about, but it just lays out again the AAUW unrestricted funds, temporarily restricted, and the permanently. And if we look at the right column, total, you'll see the net difference we have between the 14 million and the 17.6 million is that 3.6 million that we need to make up for this annual fiscal year. So you see we have a lot on our plate. Greatest needs is incredibly necessary. And my one word to people on this call, I would suggest to your branches and to your states. I know we do this at my state level, which is Maryland. Put a line item in your budgets if you are in any way able to do that, and give something from your state or from your branch to Greatest Needs Fund. Thank you, and I'll toss it back to Deb.
Thank you, Christine. That certainly shed a lot of light on the overall financial process. Now let's hear from national staff members who will explain their departments and roles and the mission-related work that they do within the budget of dues and Greatest Needs Funds donations that are allocated to them. Let's first hear from Katrina Sunbreeze.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today, and I look forward to sharing a bit more about myself and the advancement team. So you may or may not be familiar with me. My name is Katrina Sunbreeze. I am AAUW National Senior Director of Institutional Advancement, and the advancement team is the work that covers both our comprehensive membership as well as fundraising activities. In addition to engaging members, non-member donors, and prospective members and donors, my team is charged with collecting dues and contributions. So next up, I want to share an overview of the various revenue categories we oversee. So this shares our fiscal year 25 revenue goals by categories. You can see that dues in green and annual giving in gray are our two most significant revenue categories. This is followed in order by planned giving, branch giving, corporate and foundation giving, and major giving. An important role that my team plays is in sharing more about AAUW's funding priorities as well as the impact of those funds. Regarding our giving priorities, I prepared a visual of our top 3 priorities now. The first at the very top, as you can see, is the Greatest Needs Fund. It is unrestricted support. It's programs, member services, operations, which are not fully covered by available restricted funding, as Christine mentioned. For example, fellowships and grants have generous restricted funding and is not supported by Greatest Needs. However, our policy and communications work is by and large supported by the Greatest Needs Fund. Next up, just underneath, you'll see the new Defend Higher Education Fund. This new fund, established in the wake of unprecedented attacks against education, is favorably restricted support and supports all work that AAUW does related to higher education, whether that be policy, programs, communications, college and university, student, staff, and faculty engagement. It does not fund work that is not related to higher education. And one example is the updating of It's a Simple Truth. Third is the Public Policy Fund, also newly established to emphasize the urgency of our public policy and member advocacy efforts. This fund supports all public policy activities, including both higher education and non-higher education related work. The remainder of the policy team's budget would be supported by Greatest Needs. Branches can work together with AAUW National and fuel work toward our mission by actively supporting any one of the 3 funds listed here. While Greatest Needs funds remain our top priority as it covers all of our work, as you can see, that blue bar stretches all the way over across the top. The 2 new funds offer the option to give to a body of work that is an urgent need and is of particular interest to a donor wishing to give to a more focused body of work. In addition to sharing more about where to give, my team also works on providing more information to members and donors regarding the impact of their giving. And in particular, I'd like to share more about the impact of Greatest Needs giving. Our FY24 annual report is available on our website now. And in addition to an honor roll recognizing donors from this past fiscal year and an overview of financials, both revenue and expenses, the annual report highlights the work of AAUW National and the impact we are making. On each page of the annual report, you'll see marked an encircled acronym GNF, stands for Greatest Needs Fund, and you'll see the highlights of the Greatest Needs Fund at work. So I highly encourage each of you to visit our website and take a look at our annual report there. Communications, policy work, volunteer engagement, audience expansion, and member services, in addition to overall operations, are all supported by the Greatest Needs Fund. In particular, I'd like to highlight how support to the Greatest Needs Fund bolsters our member support, as it is important to note that dues does not cover the full range of support provided to our members. And this is true even after an annual dues increase. AAUW National's value to members includes member support, such as the Connect Team office hours, training materials, and tutorials. And our team has dedicated many hours to refining and updating this support system. It includes financial administration, such as dues processing, 990N filings, and the IT infrastructure for the community hub, website hosting, not just for National's website, but the over 500 other branch and state hosted websites, and cybersecurity, of course. It includes brand awareness and subject matter expertise, whether that is updating website theme files, media outreach, marketing, and serving as speakers at branch and state events, as well as other community and coalition partner events across the country. And lastly, our volunteer engagement through our national board, committees, lobby corps, and archive corps. I'd like to finish with our 5 calls to action. We're really grateful for the support of our members and branches and remind everyone of these 5 calls to action, whether it's join, give, learn, share, and act. Together, our collective impact can achieve really great things. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Megan Cassell, our Senior Director of Policy and Member Advocacy, who will share more about the work of her team, which is fueled almost entirely by the Greatest Needs Fund, and is excited about the launch of the Public Policy Fund this year. Megan?
I'm very excited about the new fund. Thank you, Katrina, and thank you to the advancement team for having this conversation. I'm really glad to be invited because I'm here not only as AAUW's Senior Director of Policy and Member Advocacy, but I'm also a member and a donor. And I see every single day how much the support that we're generating is fueling our mission for gender equity in education. I want to give you a little glimpse about what we're dealing with on the policy team. I didn't put together slides, but if I did, they really would have just been a fire hose with water coming right out of it. And so let me tell you a little bit about what you've been hearing, what we're focusing on, and peel back the curtain and give you a little insight as to what the policy and member advocacy team has been doing. So there's been a lot of news about executive orders. There seems to be one every Friday night and sometimes Monday afternoons. Executive orders are directives issued by the president to guide the work of federal agencies. They can set national priorities, shift how laws are enforced, and in some cases, threaten the rights and protections that your community members and students are relying on. I always feel like I need to say this, but executive orders cannot override laws passed by Congress, but we certainly see an undermining of civil rights. There's also congressional threats. We're seeing congressional threats to how college scholarships are taxed, how many people will be there to enforce the civil rights offices that enforce the civil rights for Title IX, for Title VI, for sex-based and race-based discrimination. And at the end of the day, these are actions that are not just happening in Washington, they're rippling across campuses and communities across the country. That's why the work of cultivating donors and advancement for AAUW's priorities is incredibly vital. And Katrina was mentioning what her team is doing. My team is on the front lines of this fire hose every single day. We are paying attention so that I hope some of you can turn off the television. But we're researching new policies. We're reading all of the executive orders, and we're doing this so that we can provide timely and accurate, nonpartisan information to our members, share with our coalition partners, and with members of Congress. We've been drafting briefing documents, letters to Congress, talking points for our members across the country, and really helping with comments that are shaping how some legislation is written, and we are going to be weighing in on how regulations are enforced. So My team works really closely with our incredible state public policy chairs and many of our branch leaders to ensure that our work is aligned. And I'm also really happy to make sure to be working with our AUW's Capitol Hill Lobby Corps, which is a really committed group of trained volunteers who meet with congressional offices to elevate AUW's issues. And this is a group that goes up twice a month up to Capitol Hill and has probably knocked on more doors in Congress than any lobbyist I know. So my hat's off to them, but the work to raise funds for AUW is helping the staff research the issue, provide background and talking points and information about the folks that we can make a difference with when we go talk to them. So this work is having a real impact, but we can't do it without folks focusing on advancement. So I want to thank everybody who's contributed to the Greatest Needs Fund. This type of flexible funding is allowing us to respond quickly to threats. I'm thrilled to share that we have launched the Public Policy Fund, obviously near and dear to my heart, and it really is showing that an opportunity for those of you who are really passionate about advocacy to directly support our policy, research, outreach, and coalition building. So let me leave you with this. Every briefing paper, every action alert, every trip to Capitol Hill, it starts with you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being committed to this. And thank you for believing that gender equity in education is worth still fighting for.
Thank you so much, Katrina and Megan, for sharing the work of your teams and how they benefit from our dues and donations to the Greatest Needs Fund.
Wow, those were informative presentations and clarified a number of concerns. And that Lego chart is now indelibly etched into my memory. We now better understand as members that we should be more proactive and involved with the national budget and in our own state and branch budgets, especially in these challenging times. We obviously need to do our share both individually and through branch fundraising projects. All we do will benefit national and keep our organization financially solvent as we build a stronger AAUW.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for doing the scenario of the branch meeting. I call them the the advancement committee players, and they do a great job. And so I want to also thank Christine for sharing the Legos. I think that's really a great presentation. And also Katrina and Megan for sharing what you do in your role as the and talking about the two new funds. I'm really excited about those because I think our members are really paying attention and they're probably listening to the news too often. I know I am. And I think we just need to all get together and build a stronger AUW because we certainly do need it. So I think those two new funds are going to be great. The importance of the branch and state donations, that's what we're going to really be talking about for the rest of the time here. Some of those donations come from fundraising at the state level, some from the branch level. But fundraising is really, really important in this right today because like every other nonprofit in the country, and I'm sure you get a lot of emails just like I do asking for funds, because they need them. They need individual funds, they need corporate funds, and AUW is no exception. We need funds too. We need funds to meet what's happening right now. So we're going to be talking about how to build fundraising programs, and we want to be sure that the Greatest Needs Fund is highlighted, along with the Defend Higher Education Fund and the Public Policy Fund. So these will be noted in the rest of this presentation so that we can we can really work on our mission-based goals, and we can function in operation and the day-to-day. So now I have a personal challenge for all of you. We have about 95 people on this webinar right now, and I have a personal challenge for all of you. Now, I know I'm speaking to the choir because you're dedicated AUW members who are leaders in your branches, leaders in the state, and you've made a commitment to spend about an hour with us tonight so that we can talk about fundraising. So this is my personal challenge to all of you. Did you know that AUW has about 41,000 members? And only 17% of those members make a donation every year to AUW. So what I'm going to ask you to do, what I need you to do, what we need you to do, is to work with the members in your branch and convince them that they need to make a donation to AUW every year. AUW is so important to so many people, and people that we don't know, actually, you know, with all the fellowships and community grants that we award each year. I mean, it's wonderful. So here's what I'm asking. Think about a small $5 donation each month. And if you don't want to donate every month, you could donate just one amount. But $5 a month adds up to $60 a year. So if all 41,000 members took up the challenge of $5 a month or $60 a year, do you know how much money we would have? We would have nearly $25 million. I actually ran my calculator 3 times to be sure I did that right. Can you imagine? Our worries would probably be over. And think what we could do. So now, what I want you to do is put your thinking cap on and try to figure out how you can convince more members in your branch to donate yearly or monthly, any amount that they can afford, and help us out. So we could use that money. So think about that. And then I want you to tell us how you did it. So we have an email account, and it's called AAUW Membership Matters at gmail.com. So AUW Membership Matters at gmail.com. Easy to remember. So let us know what works for you so that we can share it with everybody else. We need members to think about AUW as the nonprofit that they will support, along with all the others that they support. So now let's look at how fundraising can achieve financial support for AUW, for the Greatest Needs Fund, for the Defend Higher Education Fund, and the Public Policy Fund. The Advancement Committee surveyed the states and the branches and asked them to send us their fundraising campaigns, their successful fundraising campaigns. And they did. And you'll see all of that before we're over tonight. You'll see what we were able to gain from all of the branches and from the states. So now we're going to visit those states, 3 of the branches that in the states that had successful fundraisers. And we're going to have Jan Carey from Minnesota introduce that. So back to you, Jan.
Thank you, Diane. Yes, members and branches and states were invited to submit photos and a description of fundraising initiatives and events. There were some very, very impressive projects to choose from, and we thank all who contributed to this segment of the webinar. From all of the submissions, 3 branches were chosen to represent a cross-section of our country and AUW states and branches. We begin with the Bath branch in New York, where we can set the stage for a very unique and creative program.
Hi there. My name is Jareen Faber, and last year we had the opportunity to collaborate with a local playwright. Her name was Barb Murphy, and we were showing her newly written play at 70, which was excellent. And I want to read you a little summary of it. At 70 is a 90-minute play highlighting the lifelong friendships of three feminists from the same high school who recently turned 70 years old. Two of them remained close in the same city, while the third, recently widowed, had just returned, and her motivations were not totally clear. Through scenes of flashbacks and present-day events, the bonds of their friendships were tested. And I want to tell you that it was a very emotional play, and it was very well received with questions and answers that followed with audience participation. It was overwhelming. We held it last fall, October 5th. It was a 2:00 matinee, and we held it at the Presbyterian Church in Bath in what they call the community room. And it was ideal for the play because there's only 3 women that do this play. And so it required a small stage, but we needed also a large auditorium to house enough people so that we could make a profit, obviously, and to showcase this play. So we had 150 tickets printed by one of our members, wonderful drawings, as you can see there on our little flyer. And our members were distributed those so that they could sell them. We ended up selling 120 tickets for $20, which generated about $2,400 in profit. And so we were pleased. The biggest challenge we found was finding the ideal venue, because you can't use a big stage for this. There was only 3 female actresses in it. And we also needed a large area so that we could have a considerable audience to watch it. The other issue was there were so many venues that were charging such a high rent that it was gouging our profits. So anyway, we ended up with the rental being $250. That included the rent of the building, that included sound and lighting, and also maintenance. They helped set up the chairs and tear them down. And all in all, it went really well. We also provided concession, which in hindsight, I would not do again, because it's a 90-minute show and there is no intermission. So the only time we had time to sell concession was as people came in. And so it was not worth dragging a bunch of cases of water and snacks and setting up and tearing down concession. It wasn't worth it for the little bit that we made. We also provided there a photo board, which showcased the cast, the playwright, the director. There was color photos of headshots of them so that the audience members could see the cast members up close. So it went over so well. I am happy to announce that the play generated a bit of interest in several different areas of the country. I'm hearing development in Chicago, just recently Winchester, Virginia, and I know in 2026 in Naples, the Bristol Valley Playhouse is going to be putting it on. I'm not sure of the date yet, but it's going to happen. And the whole thing was really limited staff. There was one person that organized and coordinated with the playwright, and of course, a member that designed the tickets and the posters, and then another one that made sure that the tickets were sold and kept track of how many were sold. And then, of course, at the event itself, we had to have a couple people on ticket sales. We had to have a couple people on concession, and then obviously for setup and tear down. But it was minimal, and we felt it was very successful, and we were able to raise enough to provide for 2 scholarships, which made us very happy. Every year we give 2 $1,000 scholarships to a mature woman going back to school and a graduating senior. So we are very happy. If you are interested, please feel free to email me with questions, or if you want to get a hold of the playwright, we can give you that contact information for Barb Murphy. I know she would be happy to talk with you. And thank you so much. It was successful.
Thank you very much for sharing your event. That sounded wonderful. For the second branch, we'll go west to learn from the Auburn, California County branch that trivia is more than a knowledge bowl.
Hi, everyone. I am Alexia Talik with the Auburn branch here in California. I'm going to talk to you about our annual Trivia Bee, which is exactly that. Trivia questions in a bee format in competitions. A lot of fun. You can see our flyer up there. Next slide, please. Our Trivia Bee is actually its 11th year. It's a very successful community event. You can see the folks that we have. These are our girls that are supported by the program. We use scholarships and speech track and tech track payments to help get kids to some of the events that we have. We raise about $10,000 after expenses with the Bee, and we'll show you how we did that with some new innovative approaches. Next slide. Okay, it takes a village. We're going to talk about this. The Trivia Bee takes a lot of folks. You have a logistics committee that kind of oversees everything, works like an executive team. Location, food, drinks, tickets, setup, sponsors, volunteers, all of that. They keep in contact with the teams committee. It's very important to have a teams committee because you're drafting members of the community to be in sets of 3. A lot of times it's civil rivalry. We have the city government versus county government, pizza parlors battling each other. Gets to be real fun. But you have a teams committee, and then you have a questions committee. And this group is really special because they create the questions around whatever the theme is for the year, and they have to be sequestered because nobody can know what the questions are. It's an absolute secret until the event comes out. You can see some pictures down there of some of the most recent activity and events that we've had. Next slide, please. Okay, how it works. We have up to 20 teams of 3 people, 2 15 question sessions. Questions are read by an MC and shown on a screen. Then the audience is encouraged to test their knowledge, but keep quiet and not scream out their answers. Teams consult and decide on an answer. Proctor verifies it, adds and subtracts points as appropriate. The last question of the session, they can bet points to kind of push themselves ahead. And then we have a set aside of 4 tie questions in case that happens. This time we actually went through those 4 and had to go 4 more because it was such a highly competitive event. Next slide, please. Okay, recommendations. If you're going to do a Trivia Bee, start the process early. 1 year in advance, get your venue set up, and then 6 months ahead, decide your theme and meet with your committees and start things rolling. Next slide. Funds through this are raised through a variety of means. There's the charges for the teams because they pay to participate. 50% of the ticket sales to the audience includes food as 50%, and then 50% goes to us as donation. Drink sales, that's a big one. Don't underestimate the value of having good drinks at a fundraiser. We have a raffle where we've got 2 to 4 items. Don't want a huge amount of distraction with that. It takes a lot of time. And then sponsorships, and that's the next one we're going to focus on because sponsorships turned out to be a really unique thing. Next slide, please. We started a sponsorship program because silent auctions, raffles are a lot of work without a lot of pay. So what we did is we created this program of sponsorships where folks can underwrite the Bee. They can go through and decide to be a visionary, an innovator. They get benefits from it. They get tickets. If they're a business, they can put their logo up, and you can see the different levels of that. So all of these things have worked together to make our Bee really successful. Next slide, please. Again, that's about all we're going to tell you about the Bee. We've got 4 minutes. So if you have questions, you want a lot of details, you want more information, there's our contact. We're happy to share and enjoy the rest of the presentation.
That too was just an excellent description of your event, and congratulations to you. Thanks so much for sharing. Finally, we traveled back to the midsection of the country to discover how sweet it is with a little champagne and chocolate.
Hi,
My name is Pat Sanford. Our champagne and chocolate fundraiser is, as Jan said, sweet and simple. Next slide, please. With limited publicity and a morning's worth of work by one person, we consistently raise $2,000 every year. Proceeds can be used to support Greatest Needs, Nick Whistle, local scholarships, and so on. How it works. On the morning of the event, Melinda Gall, one of our members, purchases inexpensive chocolate bars, champagne, and small plants from Trader Joe's. The cost is approximately $200, which she donates. She puts the items in her car one time, takes them out one time, and takes them directly into the meeting room and displays them on a table for members to see. It's pretty and enticing, as you can see in the slide. If you donate $25, you get a chocolate bar. For $50, you get a chocolate bar and champagne. If you donate $100, you get chocolate, champagne, and a plant. This year, a member donated champagne glasses that we used instead of plants, and you can see those in front of the champagne bottles on the table. 20 members participated this year, with donations ranging from $25 to $300. Members not at the meeting can donate too by making email arrangements. We hold the fundraiser at a meeting, usually in February, with a Valentine's Day theme. This year, we had a Mardi Gras theme because we held our event in March. Publicity. We publicize the event in our monthly newsletter. We mention it at monthly meetings, and we put pictures of the event in the newsletter the month after it occurs. This fundraiser has become a tradition for us. We've been doing it for more than 10 years. Our members look forward to it. We use the proceeds to award $500 textbook scholarships to undergraduate students. Members like to provide support to young women to help them reach their educational goals. And we always tell the members how much we appreciate their ongoing support. Now, I want to give a special shout out to Melinda Gall. Melinda conceived and conducts this fundraiser. She may be familiar to many of you. She's been an active AAUW member for 30 plus years. She served at the national, state, and local levels in numerous roles. Thank you, Melinda. I think the power of our organization is based on our mission and on our members. That's why I really wanted to highlight what Melinda, an individual member, has done. This fundraiser would be easy to replicate by other branches, whether large or small. It can be conducted by one or two people or a committee. If you try it, I think you'll find that it's an efficient and effective way to raise money. Best of luck.
Thank you to New York, California, and Texas branches for sharing your creative and successful fundraising examples as incentive for all of us. Back to you, Diane.
Hi. Well, thank you. Thank you. The very, very impressive, and enthusiasm was really running high. So I'm sorry we couldn't really feature more because I think all the fundraising ideas from all of our branches were fantastic. And so that's what we're going to highlight next. We're going to use the photos that you sent in with your fundraising ideas, which are going to be in a spreadsheet and in our resources, and you'll know about that at the end of our webinar. But Jan Carey has put this all together in a really, really fantastic, actually, format so that you can all see what came in from all the branches. So watch carefully. It moves fast, but you might see yourself and you might see your branch. So take it away, Jan. Jan. That was great. That was great. And you now have some ideas what you're supposed to look for in all of the spreadsheet that was put together by Deb. And now we have time for questions and answers. So I'm going to turn this over to Katrina.
Thank you, Diane. And I think the highlight is definitely seeing all of the really fantastic ideas that our branches have from across the country and all of the resources that have been submitted by all of the different branches that have reached out to the Advancement Committee. So very special thank you. Before we begin our Q&A portion, what I wanted to do was first share some email addresses that I think could be really helpful to all of you today in case you have questions beyond today's webinar. So we have here the AAUW National Advancement Committee email. Diane plugged it and shared it earlier. We have our Fellowships and Grants team email, Policy and Member Advocacy team email, Memberships and Donations, which of course, as many of you are familiar, is our Connect team, and then also the Executive team email address. All of that information will also be shared in follow-up after today's webinar, but wanted to be able to share that really quickly. Again, we have a few really great questions, some of which are dedicated to some of our branch presenters. But before that, I wanted to share how to get to the resources that over and nearly 50 branches from across the country have submitted so that you all could really benefit from that. So I've directed you here. You're seeing my screen at the AAUW website, and I want to be able to navigate with you so that you can see where to get the resources. If you can see at the top bar, we have our special membership section. If you click on that, we have right to the right, top right, leader resources and tools. This page has a lot of really important information. First, for those who are interested, our most recent issues of Membership Matters is at the top. Of course, our community hub tools and resources. And what we have put together today is our fundraising resources for branches. If you click here, you'll see we have first, the AAUW fundraiser ideas. If you click open that piece, you'll see a spreadsheet with descriptions, funds raised, and all of the information on how to get in contact with folks after today's webinar. We have a quick reference guide for fundraising. The committee did a great job putting together all that you need to consider when organizing a fundraiser. And then finally, examples of branch fundraisers. Here you'll see we have the 47 different branches who've included information that you can benefit from to learn a little bit more about what they did and how they did it. Before I go to some of the questions that were asked, I wanted to navigate back to our front homepage because I did highlight our annual report. And one of the first questions had asked about some details about expenditures to learn a little bit more about how all of that is broken down. And so this is our AAUW fiscal year 2024 annual report. You'll see in our table of contents all of the information that we have in this annual report, and then the Greatest Needs Fund logo. If you go all the way to page 23, that's where you'll see the balance sheet and finances. And so that you all can see it, here's also a membership snapshot, information about our membership at a high level. On page 22 and onward, you'll see some highlights of our finances, focus areas, our balance sheet. Also on page 26, breakdowns of revenue, and then on 27, breakdowns of expenses so that you all can get a better idea of what that looks like. So I highly encourage each of you to visit our website and take a look. So first I want to go to some of the questions that we have had on here, and a couple of them are actually for Jareen at the Bath branch. And so Jareen, if you wouldn't mind popping on camera so you can answer these questions. Joan asked, how can we get permission to put on this play? And another asked about how many people are in the Bath branch.
Oh gosh, I think the membership is about 40 in the Bath branch. We're a rural area, so I think a bigger town would be able to do a lot better than 2,400. That was profit. You can get a hold of me through email in that list. I give you my email address because if you're interested in putting this on, I know that Barb Murphy would love to talk with you. And so I'm going to give you my email address. It's Jareen, like you see on the screen, Jareen F as in Frank, like on the Faber, 2.gmail.com, or I'm sorry, at gmail.com. So yeah.
Thank you, Jareen. I have another question from Catherine that asks, are donations to the new funds tax deductible? And the answer is 100% yes. All donations to AUW, including 100% of your dues, are tax deductible. And so all contributions there are able to be deductible for your taxes. So the next, and this is more of an observation. So this is about the statistic that only 17% of members are donating. And then also too, if we had every member participating, that, you know, we could certainly have the gap for our greatest needs covered. And that certainly is as well. And for those of you that are hearing for the first time, $5 a month for every member certainly makes and would make a huge difference. The next question that I have come up is about AAUW National, talking about member support and being more inclined to give if you could really get in touch with someone at National more often. So two things I wanted to highlight in particular. We have twice weekly Connect Team office hours every Tuesday and Thursday. We have our Connect team, which is a team of 2 individuals plus Tremaine Parquet, who also supports membership at AAUW. And they are there. Angie Cooper, Marisa Dumas, and Tremaine Parquet are there every Tuesday and Thursday to answer questions from member leaders who hop on for live support. So if there's ever a time that you aren't able to get a direct response from Connect, member leaders can always join for live support twice weekly there. But also too, I wanted to highlight the work of folks on our committees, our advancement committee. And so I don't know if there is perhaps Diane, if you'd like to hop on and talk a bit more about the work that the advancement committee is doing to really get in touch with state leaders and branch leaders and share more information from AAUW National.
Thank you, Katrina. Yes, the Advancement Committee is this really fantastic team of all these leaders from like I told you, the largest states. And what we do we meet every month. And after we meet, and Katrina she gives us all the current news from AUW, and we put it together in a letter. And we send it to, we call them our adopted states. So those are the states that we represent as members of the committee, and also other states that don't have someone on that committee. And it might be, and we also send it to branches that don't have a state organization. So we rely on the state presidents and those branches to get the information. And the state presidents they send on the information. So that's one way we're doing that. And another way is we gave you the email address, email us and let us know what you want to know. We also we meet every 2 months with all the state presidents and representatives from the branches that don't have state organizations. So, and that is done by the board of directors, AUW board of directors. So we contacted all the branches about the branch survey this last year, and that was really successful. And we're willing to do that again. We want all the branches to succeed. We want all the branches to support AUW. We want all the branches to have mission-based programs. And so we're here to support you all that we can.
Thank you, Diane. I see another question that I believe Tremaine had answered in the Q&A, but I do want to share my screen once again, just so that folks know how to navigate there. And that is how to learn more about when office hours happen and how to register for them. So again, on our homepage, if you click on membership and then leader resources and tools, you'll see that we've got our Community Hub tools and resources page, which is where a lot of the tutorials and information about resources, logging in, all the things are there. But if you still need support, you'll see here, get support. And at the very bottom, when we zoom down, you can register for the upcoming office hours on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern or Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. When you register, you submit your questions and are able to get them answered. So I'll stop sharing there, get another look. So another question that we have is, do we still have access to the Governance and Sustainability Fund, Leadership Fund, or are those discontinued in favor of the new funds? So greatest needs support both governance and sustainability and any kind of leadership resources. Really in terms of the top priorities of AAUW and fundraising and where we're asking for folks to really direct their support is in first greatest needs, but also for the Defend Higher Education Fund and the Public Policy Fund. It is certainly in alignment with our organizational priorities and is where we're really seeing that our members can be activated and in support of where we see the urgent needs are today. So I would certainly stress the importance of greatest needs, but for those who would like options for more focused funding, the Defend Higher Education Fund and the Public Policy Fund are two areas that we certainly are encouraging support. Again, navigating our website, I'll share my screen once again in terms of where you can get information on how to donate online. As an example, you see at the top the donate button. In addition to greatest needs, we've also activated the Defend Higher Education Fund and the Public Policy Fund as options for donating online. And you'll see that we have a description of all three here on this page. So I'll stop sharing and pop back in. With regards to a brand guidelines document and information about marketing materials, once again, we'll navigate to our website so that you all can see kind of, I find it to be really helpful to take a look and sort of navigate some of the resources we have available on our website. So whenever you're on one of our pages, you'll see the AAUW logo to the left. Whenever you click on that, or actually go back to about AAUW here, what you can see is at the top, we have membership and our leader resources and tools. Once again, if you scroll at the bottom, state and branch tools, this piece in particular, we've got a lot of different really helpful resources for you. So here on the right column towards the bottom, you'll see this is where you can download AAUW logos and letterhead, our color palette. In terms of a more robust brand guidelines document, at this moment, what we have is largely the state and branch logos, as well as a PowerPoint template and other things. If you have more questions with respect to brand guidelines, you can always reach out to the Connect team. But in terms of what we have in terms of direction and information on branding, you can rely on reaching out or taking a look at our website in that folder for all the information we have currently available. We are about 7 minutes over time, and I want to make sure that you all are able to get to the rest of your day. So I will turn it back over to Diane to conclude today's program and really appreciate your time. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Katrina, for showing the website. I think that's very helpful for people. So thank you. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for showing how that they could get to the answers to those, Katrina. I really appreciate that. And thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's late on the East Coast, and we really appreciate your time and your attention. And anything that we can do to help you, we will do it. Remember, AUW is going to keep supporting equity for women and girls. We're going to do everything we can to help higher education, and we're going to be advocates for everything that is important to us. So just remember that we're here and we're going to keep doing that. So together we can and we will build a stronger AAUW. So thanks for coming and joining us tonight. Have a good evening. Thank you.